All right, everyone. Welcome again for another post-game interview. This time with me, Chris and Malik, to talk about their game. You might have seen the results on BCP already, but now let's get to the meat of it. Let's find out how the game went down. So, Chris, first of all, what army did you play, and how did it, pan out for you?
Well, I bought Chaos Demons list, quite infantry heavy, no greater demons, just Be'lakor. I was really hoping to go second, and luckily I did. It was pretty nice. Yeah.
So, which unit was the MVP of your army? Was that the Flamers, or who does the heavy lifting?
Yeah, it's got to be the Flamers. They're hands down the best unit in the Codex. Super mobile, lots of shots, good access to strats, good access to buff ability, and they're cheap. They're hands down the best unit in the Codex.
Do you think they should get a price hike or something like that?
I think potentially, maybe 30-something points. Nothing too crazy, because Demons is already, everything else is fairly reasonably priced. So if you start buffing their price up on them, then lists will start getting a lot more different.
Okay, all right. And it's a fairly fresh book. His army, so GSC, quite unusual. Did you have the time to get some reps against that army, or was it like a complete surprise?
Well, I played Genestealers a little bit myself, so I sort of knew some of the tricks. But Malik did teach me a few new ones, which was interesting. And unfortunately, I didn't be able to get any practice games in against Genestealer cults. Just the typicals, Leviathan, Nids, Thousand Suns, stuff like that. The things I'm expecting to see.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I was just going to say, because nobody's mad enough to bring Genestealer cults to a tournament.
Exactly, but I think that's also what happened at World Team Championships, where Eric brought the list, and he knew exactly that people have no practice against it. I mean, all the Australian lists were like that. People just didn't practice against them because they were so uncommon. Were you counting on the same sort of effect with your list?
Yeah, I mean, I think GSC always has a lot of tricks, and you could play in a real gotcha style or not telling people stuff. So I really try to tell people stuff, but there's telling you and there's being avoiding it. Like you can't avoid summon the cult even if you know it's happening in the same way. So I definitely don't try and play off the kind of my opponent not knowing any rules, but I know people just don't know how to interact their army with this because it's not regular. But just before we get to that, I don't know if we made the result clear. Just a massive congrats to Chris. He played an absolute blinder, really. He outplayed me. So I made some really crucial mistakes, even though Chris tried to help me to not make them, which was quite funny. He was like, don't do that. And I was like, I'm going to do this. So just an amazing game. 98-81, but actually some tiny swings, and that just flips, right? But I just couldn't stop scoring. I ended up with more units, more points on the board, but I couldn't stop Chris's scoring. But I said it controversially yesterday, and I'm just going to say it again. I don't think the Eric list is very good. And I really think, obviously, it's great where you have some choice on matchups. So obviously WTC, you got some heavier terrain. You can really start playing the angles and removing models and then leaving a unit half alive and then reviving it. But I'm not sure it's a singles list personally. I certainly don't think mine is an LGT winning list. It clearly isn't, because round one I'm out. But GSC can at least compete, and that's really cool, and there's so much fun to play. So yeah, that's kind of just my synopsis.
So it's interesting because both our armies sort of appear on the table later than in the first round, because I understand that the Flamers can come in from Deep Strike. GSC, with all the blips and so on, they also appear later in the game. Do you think that it is important who starts?
Oh, massively. We were saying before, it's going second in this matchup is huge, because then you can react to your opponent's deep strikes rather than having to put stuff out there and maybe not be certain you're going to get the pain where it needs to be. But yeah, it's definitely a match of two deep striking armies, and I think Demons at the minute just pip Genestealer cults to the deep strike ability.
I think on this mission as well, just turn one, if Chris goes first, he can't interact with me. All he sees is blips. All he could do is teleport a unit and then potentially be into the wrong kind of blip, that kind of thing. Whereas I can, and I went for it, but I just didn't get the results we wanted. But so much fun. I had an absolute giggle.
Well, that's the most important part. Last question, probably. Any tweaks to the list? Something that you would, if you could now change anything, what would that be?
No, I feel like look, being transparent, there is just I feel like one potential pivot point in the list, which is the additional 7 aberrants, which for me are all about fighting this Necron meta, because the Necrons just can't cope with the aberrants. So I think if you're playing, take those 7 aberrants out, you can play with either another Acolyte squad, you can play with some of the upgrades, so they come within 3 inches or automatically exposed off one of the neophyte units. So that's where you've got some moves for me. I love Pauper Princes. I think they need like an Army of Renown or something just to give them a touch over, and then they're really a competitive list. But there's just so much fun to play. I really do tell anyone, like, if you're really after a giggle and you want to use this a little bit, well, similar to Daemons, if I was really honest, watching Chris do his bits, use his warp points, it takes some thinking.
Right. And similar question here. Do you miss any of the greater demons, or is the list, fine-tuned to do exactly what you intended, or is anything, missing?
Yeah, so the list does what it does. Lots of infantry, lots of obsec, ability, usually ability to deny points, not so easily against GSC. I do like Greater Demons. I just think they're a bit of a trap. Like when you put 350 points into an unkillable Bloodthirster and then it dies, it's like you're kind of in a trap. And it's hard enough having to take Be'lakor for 420 points just to get access to his spells and the no invuln thing. It's a lot. If I could get access to that Psychic Discipline any other way, I would take anything else over Be'lakor.
That's understood. All right, guys, I think we will wrap this one. To our listeners, make sure that you follow us on Facebook. We also update the results and all the other essentials on Reddit, so make sure that you go over there as well. And to you, gents, I wish you good luck in your future games, and have fun. Enjoy yourselves. That's the most important part.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Cheers.